In an effort to get a national perspective that is not clouded by Bill's myopia, as we suffer from, we'd like to welcome in Sherree Burruss now, a host of Good Morning Football, which airs Monday to Friday at 8 a.m. on NFL Network. Sherree also a host of Good Morning Football Overtime, which streams Monday to Friday at 10 a.m. on the Roku channel and airs locally here in Buffalo on Fox 29 Monday through Friday at 3:30 Eastern Time. Sherree, welcome.
Hi, Sherree.
Appreciate you joining
Hello.
us. And why don't you just first give us maybe the 10,000-foot national view of this Bills team, off to a 3-0 start here for the first time since 2020.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. And I think it's funny, I said it on the show this morning that there's just been years. I mean, I don't need to tell you guys are Bills fans. It's like, oh, this is the year the Bills are going to the Super Bowl. This is the year the Bills are going to the Super Bowl. And then it kind of felt like this summer things were a little bit more quiet. Maybe Bills flying a little under the radar. All the talk of, well, Gabe Davis is gone, Steph Diggs is gone. What's Josh gonna do? The world is ending. Hello, 3-0. Last night was just the definition of perfection across the board. It just seemed like the ball was going every right way for Buffalo. And I think as we look big picture and take a step back, it's kind of like from the media standpoint, we probably should have given the Bills a little bit more credit in the offseason, or they deserve their flowers, particularly the way we're playing. And if you think about that game last night, if they can keep that up or even something similar, it might be a very long postseason there in Buffalo.
Yes, certainly. Things are going swimmingly early on in this season, but it is. I mean, they're not even a quarter of the way through the season, and it's a long, drawn-out season. And for you, look at the division. Even the Jets now, they seem to be after the Thursday. I think it was a Thursday night game they played. They seem like they're the Jets that we thought they were going to be. Aaron Rodgers is throwing it. They can run it. Their defense stepped up. They stumbled a little bit out of the blocks, but man, oh man. The AFC East now looks to be a two-horse race with the Jets and the Bills. And is that how you would see it as well?
Yeah, most definitely. I definitely had questions about the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, the fact that he's, 40 years old, 20th season, if that's, just unimaginable to be playing at that high of a level for so long. Would he be able to come back and be that Aaron Rodgers of old that we saw with Green Bay? So the fact that he's able to lead them to what they're looking like right now. On the show, Kyle always jokes, the first week you can't trust of the NFL season. And then as we get into week 2 and 3, we really start to see who teams are becoming. And I think when you look at it, it is sort of the Jets and the Bills as those two teams that are really kind of standing out. And, if you look, their horses are kind of leading the way towards that finish line early. But again, it's a marathon. It's sort of like a sprinted marathon. It kind of feels like sometimes too, right? Doing 17 games. But the fact they're only 3 weeks in and the Bills haven't really stumbled, and the mistakes, if you want to even call it that they haven't been largely detrimental, I think is just a really good, solid base. Players always talk about not wanting to peak in September. You want to peak December, January. And that kind of feels like where the Bills are as you look at the first handful of games so far this season.
To your point, Sherree, about the free agent losses due mainly to, salary cap constraints for the Bills, everybody was wondering about this new democratic approach to the passing game. Everybody eats, kumbaya and all of that. But through 3 games, this has been a very selfless group. And again, last night, 10 different passing targets, catch passes. I can't imagine, if you're a defensive coordinator, how you game plan for a team that doesn't really have a true number one. It's almost like they took a little bit of a page out of the Green Bay Packers book last year because they don't really have a true number one. And Jordan Love said leading up to this season, I just play the play. It feels like Josh is playing that way now too.
Absolutely. And there does seem to be sort of this air about Josh. I've only had a couple of production meetings with him and I covered some Bills games for CBS NFL. He just seems like he's genuinely having so much fun. Not that he wasn't before, but and you guys can tell me, it just seems like he's just playing so free. There isn't sort of this stress maybe and pressure. I mean, you're seeing him here just scramble. It's incredible to watch him work. And I really think that's sort of a testament that there is such selflessness in that room, and that really is a key to success. You look at it. I mean, Keon Coleman just took the preseason, offseason by storm, just because of who he is, which definitely displayed there on the field. And Damar Hamlin getting his first career interception last night. I mean, talk about a feel-good story. So the fact that there are so many playmakers, I do send all my best wishes to any defensive coordinator, because when you think, great, cool, we can stop, player X, Y, and Z. Oh, wait, no, we got over here. Like, there's just too many options to really, if I were a defensive coordinator, to be like, yes, I feel confident that we can lock down the Bills offense. Because even if you think about the playmakers, I mean, James Cook last night, my goodness, he lives in the end zone. You then still have to take into account Josh Allen and his legs and what he's able to do. So it's just a bounty of riches, it seems like, there you guys have in Buffalo.
And you look at the conference right now, it would be actually the one seed would be the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are allowing only 8 points a game defensively. They seem to be, doing it the old-fashioned way. But is there any other team, with Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Kansas City, of course, Baltimore, Houston, and the Jets? Any of these teams in the AFC a surprise to you about who they are and what they have shown through 3 weeks?
Yeah, just to sort of go back, leave it to the Steelers to do it the old-fashioned way, right? That just
Right.
seems so on brand for the Steelers to kind of go back to that, steel curtain defensive kind of leadership mindset. But I've actually been really surprised by the Ravens. The last year or so, I was able to cover them when I lived in the DC area, and we sort of thought we knew who they were. But then coming into the season, as I said, week one's kind of an outlier. So you think, okay, they almost beat the Chiefs, they'll be fine. Then they have week two where they lose again to the Raiders at home. So you're like, wait a minute, who is this team? And again, the fact they almost let a lead slip in the fourth quarter to the Cowboys, I'm starting to wonder who they are. I know they have a new defensive coordinator and Zach Orr now with McDaniel going to Seattle. It's Mike McDaniel, Mike McDonald. Their names are they're very, very close. So the fact that they do have a new defensive coordinator yet again, they still have a lot of the same pieces on the defense, but that was a team I just sort of imagine would pick up and keep running and like sort of, they would have a really good shot come January for a playoff run, but it's not really coming as easily as I thought. But I think that kind of adds the parity of just the NFL, and that's kind of why we love it and we watch it, because if we knew who was going to win, we wouldn't probably watch, right? So it makes it a little bit more fun kind of seeing how everything shakes out.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Sherree, I'm not buying this slow start from the Ravens. I have not forgotten they were the number one seed in the AFC last year. I think they're just trying to get over the fact that they had to replace 3 starting offensive linemen. I think it's going to take them a little time, but John Harbaugh has been there way too long, has had way too much success. They have Derrick Henry in the backfield. I don't know what it is, but I think they're going to get their ducks in a row. I'm just hoping it's not this week against the Bills on Sunday Night Football. Last one for you. Can you give us your take on Cincinnati? Joe Burrow says our season is not over after their third straight loss last night. We have seen them get off to slow starts in the past. 0-2 is like par for the course for them. But now they're 0-3, and their defense has some bad injuries up front with their 2 defensive tackles out. I'm worried Joe Burrow is going to have to hang 35 up on the board every week if they want to win more than they lose right now.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely hard to think of the team that went to the Super Bowl just a couple of years ago, that Bengals team, to where we are now. Again, it's not historically done to come back from an 0-3 hole to make the playoffs. The odds are definitely harder, but I think, I've been trying to think about it, being also someone who, again, working in the DC, Baltimore area, covered the Commanders. It might not necessarily just be like a Bengals issue. Maybe we can give Washington a little bit more credit for what they're able to do, and Jaden Daniels himself, but it's definitely concerning when you think about Cincinnati being 0-3, what their defense was doing yesterday against that sort of younger Commanders offense. And you got to remember, Jamar Chase wasn't there for most of the offseason. So they even have I know there's that LSU connection with Burrow and Chase. So they have that chemistry already. But I do think there is something to having that offseason program and getting more comfortable with the offense and each other. Maybe they might be a step or 2 behind. I'm not blaming Jamar Chase for all of this, but I definitely think there's just a few little pieces to the puzzle that are a little off kilter that we're not used to seeing that are definitely causing some issues there.
Sherree, thanks so much for spending some time with us and giving us a couple minutes. Appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys. I used to live in Rochester, New York, and everyone
Oh, very
around us
nice.
were Bills fans. One of the favorite places I've lived in my entire life. So it was great talking to you guys.